This short movie is to explain the user interface for Revit 2013. I can double click on the icon to launch the product, or I could go to the Windows Start menu and launch it from there. But when the product opens up, the first screen that you're going to see has two main areas on it. One is titled as Projects and the other is titled as Families. So when it opens up here, you'll see that on the top I've got really a history of the files that I've been working with. It shows me the last 4 projects that I've been working in. You can see them here: solar house, roof. The projects part of this panel is what we would start with. We're going to create a project for purposes of developing an interior. And we can start by saying, open an existing project, create a new project, or we can use a template file. In our case, we'll use the architectural template file to get started. If you've got 4 projects listed here, you can always retrieve a project by clicking on the graphic that was the save view of the last project that you were in. So if I were to click on it, that would open the project. Projects are a single database, and what you'll see as I explain the interface is that when you've got a virtual model that you've created, you can very quickly create additional views of that model that are sections, elevations, schedules, 3D views, camera views. So you're actually reaping the benefits of having a single database from which you can extract multiple views of your model for purposes of construction documentation or presentation. Below the projects panel is a families area. The families are really the equivalent of blocks in AutoCAD, but a lot more powerful. They are for situations where you want to create something that isn't delivered with the product. So maybe if you don't have a operating table, or you don't have a piece of furniture of a particular type and you can't find it on a website, or through looking at Autodesk Seek and looking for the product online, those loadable families are something that you can create from templates that are specific to family types. Our main focus is going to be the actual project, and in particular the architectural template is what we're going to use. I'm going to open the solar house, so I can double click on the icon there to open the project and explain the pieces of the interface that you can see. So top left is what's called the application menu. That application menu has a black down arrow displayed on it, which is an indication that there's additional options below it. You'll see that same black arrow is featured many places on the interface itself. That indicates that there are additional choices. If I click on the interface here, you'll see what are called the file-related commands. I'm going to try and just move those around a bit so you can see what's on here. But they're mostly, create a new project or a new family, save your project, which you want to do frequently. We're going to set a timer in a minute that will remind you every 15 minutes. Save as if you're going to give it a different name. Export is mostly about moving content between one product and another, which we're not going to be interested in at the moment. New in 2013, Suite Workflows is actually making like a direct connection between animation projects and other software that's part of the building design suite, where again we're going to focus just primarily on what you can do inside Revit architecture. So if I just click on the screen to clear that, the application menu is the option on the top left, and it's file related. The option beside it is what's called the quick access toolbar. The purpose of this being there is that these are your frequently used commands. And you'll see a lot of repetition. Right here, for example, is the third way that we've seen of creating a new project, or of opening a project, or of saving a project. But the point of these is that you can get to these commands with one click while you're in the project file itself. So, if somebody said to you that I've got a way of making you twice as efficient you would jump at it. In this case, it might seem insignificant to do something like say, well, I want to go to the Manage tab and I want to click on Materials, so it's 2 clicks. The point is that if I can right click and say add that to the quick access toolbar, if this is something that I'm using all the time, so what I've done is actually add it to the quick access toolbar, then I can now get to it with 1 click. One, I don't have to remember where it was on a series of menus that aren't always visible. And 2, I can get to it in 1 click. It makes me twice as efficient as having to pick my way through menu options to find the command itself. Now my resolution in recording changes the interface a little bit, so you can't see the entire quick access toolbar. But if you look at it, you'll see I've got undo and redo, frequently used as I work. I've got measure, I've got dimension, and I've got create a section or open other windows. And what I've done now is I've said add to that the materials when I want to create materials. So instead of me having to hunt and look for that, I can click and get immediately the dialogues that I need for the creation of materials. So let me just close those. Very fast, very efficient, a good way to work. On the middle of my screen, and again, if you're looking at yours on a normal size screen, you would see the title of the project that you're in, 01 Solar, and then beside it you'd also see the name of the view that you're looking at. You can have multiple projects open at the same time, and you can have multiple windows open at the same time. More on that later. To the right of this is the option that's called the Info Center. So really from this location on to the end of here is the Information Center. This is where you can type in something that you're looking for and click search, the binoculars, and see if you can get information. All I'm going to point out at the moment is the help option, which is the question mark. That's also the F1 key. So if you want to access help online, and it's wiki help, so it's help that is stored on the internet, and you're bringing up the help file when you click on that item. This here has information on a particular topic, and if, for example, I was to type something in, say a particular command, it'll give me options to explain what they are and how you use them. Let me close that. An option that I'll deal with later is that now you can access content on Autodesk 360. This is a revolutionary change in the way the product works. This will let me do things like render my model to create photorealistic images of the inside of my building, but do it on the internet rather than on my laptop, and I'll show more on that later on. If I want to close the product, I can do it here, or maximize, minimize, but these 3 options are for the product itself. Where you see them in a view, that's for an individual view. Remember, you can have multiple views open. The next part of the interface is the ribbon. The ribbon really extends from up here, what are called the tabs, down to these options, build, model, circulation. They're referred to as panels. So if you notice, the architecture tab has most of your building components listed on it, and you'll probably use that about 80% of the time to create building components such as windows, columns, roofs, ceilings, floors. There's a catch-all category in here called component, which could be furniture, people, plants. It's anytime there's not an individual command that says, build a window or build a ceiling, then it's the component command that you want to look at, because remember, the black arrow is indicating that you've got choices underneath, and that the component is anything not listed on that build panel, such as furniture, such as power symbols, such as trees, those kind of things. Tabs themselves are groupings of commands according to function. So just as you can see that building, the 3D building is shown here. Modeling is shown, like creating three-dimensional text. Circulation, stairs and railings. So they're grouped according to function. The two most important building components or building elements that you draft are probably the datum elements called levels and grids, and we'll talk more of that later on. But what I want you to see is that right now the interface itself, this ribbon, looks a little complex because it's got a lot of tabs on it. It's got structural, it's got building systems, and I want to simplify that so we only have architectural symbols showing on our screen. The way I do that is I go to the application menu, I go to the options, and if I look under that first tab, under general, I want to get reminders to save my project, and if you're starting in Revit, I would switch this to say 15 minutes, so that at intervals of a maximum of 15 minutes, you're going to get a reminder that says, do you want to save your project? You click yes, it makes a backup, which it appends with a number, 001. If you've already got a 001, 002, but then it continues in the current project so that you can continue to work with the knowledge that you've already got, a file that can act as a backup. User interface is where I want to simplify my tabs. So it says architectural tab and tools, structural tab and tools. All I need to do is remove the checkbox from I don't want the structure, I don't want building systems, I don't want massing and site either, and I don't want energy analysis. So when I've checked those off, I'm really ready to go into my project and start work. So if you watch the tab on the top left here, you'll see that when I click OK, it simplifies the tabs that are part of my interface. One other option that a lot of people use, especially advanced users, under the View tab and under User Interface, and it's extremely easy to accidentally turn off the ribbon. The User Interface here lets me put a checkbox beside the parts of the user interface that I want to see, but it also lets me create keyboard shortcuts for individual commands. So any command that I issue by clicking on it in the window here can also be accessed by a shortcut. For example, the one shown here is for the properties palette, which is this option here. It shows that PP will turn it on or toggle it off. So when I click PP or Control 1 or VP, it's going to affect the visibility of that palette. You can take any of the commands that are listed in here, and you can, so say DI for dimension, you can add your own key-ins. If they are unique, you'll be allowed to add them to the file itself. You can then export your entire file as an XML file or import your XML file, so that if you went to another workstation, you'd be able to load the keyboard shortcuts and use them on that workstation. As I work, I'll try and call out the options that are there. You will see them listed. So for example, under wall, you see WA is the shortcut. Under door, DR. Under window, WN. Not all of them list a shortcut, right? But you can add anything that you want to make your life easier.